guys, Absolute Doors here, coming to you with another One Piece video. And in today's One Piece video, we are going to be doing a tier list on all of the leaders in OP07. I cannot believe, guys, that we are now on 70 leaders in this current game, and it's just wild to think about that. But with this comes another tier list where we're going to go over all of the leaders, talk about where they're going to be, in my opinion, in the OP07 format, and yeah, just have some fun with a video. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead, get into it, and start talking about all 70 of these leaders and put them where I think they deserve to be on the format tier list. So, getting right into it. Starting off, we have the Red Monkey D. Luffy. Gonna put him where I think instantaneously. I think he's a C tier leader. Let's be honest, he's not amazing, doesn't really do a lot. Goes ahead and puts one Don, which is nice, but there's better red leaders now. Like, you can play stuff like Dragon, which is just a superior version, right? Next we have Green Kid. Film Kid is still a very, very decent deck and can still get wins if you really want to, but let's be honest, if you're going to be playing anything, you're going to be playing the Film Uta deck, just because she has more synergy and can get more cards in hand. So I think because of this, he's probably a C tier, lower B tier leader. We're going to put him in C tier for now. Blue Crocodile, honestly, this leader is basically C tier as well. Like, these leaders have just come off the map quite a bit ever since, well, the format's changed, and we're getting to that point where they just don't see a lot of play. And next we have Kaido. Purple Kaido, probably a C tier leader as well, to be completely honest. Yes, he's still pretty decent, has one of the very good effects, and does get better going into OP08 with the addition of Black Maria being able to give you loads of Don, take more life. But right now, leader's not great, so I consider him a C tier leader as well. It's funny how all of these leaders were very high up on these tier lists. Like, Kid at one point was an A tier, Crocodile was a B to A tier, and Kaido, he was one of the best leaders at the start of the game, but they've all kind of fallen from grace. Next we have the promo Red Uta. This leader is absolute garbage, boosts normal vanilla characters, doesn't really do a lot, like, not great. Next, we're going into the OP01 section. We've got Zoro. Zoro's still a pretty decent leader, not gonna lie. Like, being able to boost all of your characters, having access to Killer and Kid, I still think he's pretty decent and can still see some aggressive plays in the game. And definitely if it goes up against something like possibly a Nell and other things, it could very much have a good matchup against these decks. So I think personally I'll probably slap him into an A tier slot, just because he does have that potential to do quite a lot. But at the current moment, I don't think he's obviously S tier, and he can probably drop down to B tier as well, but he's definitely a lower A tier leader. Next we have Red Green Law getting support in OP07 with only one really good card getting into the deck, which is the new Roronoa Zoro 1-drop green character. Does it really boost this deck super big? Not really, but it's still actually an A tier leader in my personal opinion. Reason being behind this is that it only has one bad matchup in this format, and yes, it's the same reason why this deck didn't really perform last format, but was still the best worst deck of the format, because the other Trafalgar Law, Red Purple Law, actually just smacks Red Green Law, taking its advantage away, and all of those good stuffs. But currently, the deck is still very good against any other deck. You go up against any other leader, this deck can still hold its own. It's just, if you do up against Red Purple Law, it really isn't gonna be a good time in my personal opinion. So he is an A tier leader. He's still very decent, but if you do go up against Red Purple Law, it's not going to be great. This leader also does go down to probably a B or a C tier as well in OP08, because of the fact that Red Purple Law just becomes the S tier deck of the format, and on his own as well, and it's just going to be near impossible to play this leader. Next we go into Red Green Luffy. Let's be honest, it did get some support with EVO1 getting the new Cavendish, which allows him to go ahead and use new Don, but he's not really amazing, so we're going to have to go ahead and put him in C tier as well. Not a great leader, cool collectible card, but not a great leader. Odin, trash tier. Green Odin has been one of the worst leaders in the game since its inception, and yeah, he is still terrible, so he goes into there. Dofi, Blue Dofi, Personally, I think he is in the A tier as well. Reason being that all of that new support, all of those new 7 Warlords of the Sea support, the Jinbei, the Crocodile, all of that is actually very, very strong for Dofi, and he does have a lot of power going forward. Being a leader that just plays from the top of your deck, having more targets to play from the top of your deck is insanely good, and Jinbei being a 4-cost that plays from the top, to also play a character from your hand, being able to drop those 4-cost blowers that you would have drawn and not been able to play because you're going ahead and using your leader ability, really does give this deck a new outlook, and I can definitely see Blue Dofi being played this format very, very well. Next we have the Blue Purple Kaido. Once again, another C tier leader, worse than probably all of these, maybe slightly higher than the Croc and the Luffy, but he's just not great. Like, he has access to Onigashima and everything, having the nice ramp, but his leader ability only works when you KO something, and it's just worse in comparison to Trashing Life, in my opinion. Next, we have the Blue Purple Croc. Blue Purple Croc is actually pretty decent. It does have access into all of the purple Baroque Works cards, such as the 8-drop Crocodile to gain life, and has access to the ability to draw cards as well, which is pretty decent. But is he an amazing leader? No, he's probably a C tier leader as well, probably the same level as the Kaido. I'll probably put him above the Kaido though, just because he does have that very nice support, but he does have the lacking facts of that he's just not a great leader, and there's not enough support to justify him being good. Next we have Purple King. We all know he's trash tier. He's never been good. He's had his, like, interesting moments where people have tried to play him and he can do some things, but he's basically just a worse Kaido, and you would rather play Kaido over him in every other scenario. Film Shanks. This leader is arse as well. Like, get rid of Free Don, boost your characters. That's pretty decent, right? But let's be honest, this leader's just not good and should not be played. It's just not a great leader. Black Sakazuki, another one for the trash tier. This leader is so bad. You pay Free Don, you trash a card to KO a 0-cost character. That is not great. You could be using those resources for so many other things. And the fact that it's Free Don should have been just a KO without trashing, in my personal opinion. Next we have Edward Newgate, Whitebeard himself. As we know, he's always going to be an A tier leader. This leader is still very, very strong. Being a 6k leader, he's a great counter to the red-purple lore matchup. Being a 6k leader, having tons of counter as well, getting basically 2 draws every single turn is never a downside for him. And he's just a very, very good leader overall. Like, he's very easy to play, he's very generic, and he can go ahead and rush you down while also being big, right? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Black, Red, Garp. Another trash tier leader. This color combination, red and black, I don't agree with whatsoever. It's not a great combination, and there's not a good utility cards that you could mix in with the two to go ahead and get that good removal or to go ahead and get that good rush. But Garp just goes ahead and takes the cake with this, being a leader that solely relies on black, but has attached Don onto him to go ahead and decrease, taking away from your ability to actually KO things with other characters, which is a bit unfortunate and sadly just puts him in the trash tier in my personal opinion. Green Kinemon. Our first B tier leader. This leader still has access to everything it once did, meaning I think it is still a very, very decent leader. Being able to go ahead and decrease your cost of land on 1 cards, being able to play the Hiyori, which can play out the 5-cost Yamato on turn 2 is very, very nice. And also having access to the original cards, such as the Odins and also Hody Jones now, to go ahead and rest stuff. Like, this leader is still pretty decent and definitely has some playability going into the future. Is he amazing though? No, I think he's B tier at best, but he's definitely an interesting leader to look at. Blue, Green, Sanji. Another trash tier leader, sadly. This leader, in my personal opinion, is just absolutely ass. Like, looking at him in a nutshell, he can't trigger his ability if you play characters with Rush, Blocker, anything along those lines. He can only do it if you play vanilla characters like the Film Usopp, Film Zoro. Like, he really is just a disappointing leader. He should have been able to use his ability if you played blockers or Rush characters to give it the additional oomph that it did need to be able to be played. But sadly, you cannot do that, so Sanji is just a trash tier leader in my personal opinion. Next, we have Ivankov. Ivankov, I think, is a pretty easy one. With the new support that came out, it actually does get slightly better, being able to utilize the ability of the new Inazuma to essentially draw 4 cards with the leader ability, and Inazuma's ability is very, very nice, and the deck does have a lot of the ability to remove blockers with the 6-drop Luffy, and has a lot of draw power in it as well to go ahead and cycle its hand. It's a very nice deck, and I think the deck is actually still pretty decent. Do I think it's a very high tier deck? No. but I'll definitely put it on the lower B tier area just because it can do bits if you're playing it right. And with all the blue supports such as Gravity Blade and Red Rock for removal and stuff, I think it does have some plays with its ability to draw lots of cards and also consistency to go ahead and have that removal. So I think he's a B tier leader at best. Next we have Magellan. Magellan is basically the same level as Kaido. Sadly, per pure leaders have kind of just dropped down. They're not really great right now. Maybe in the future in OP08, when we do get the support like Black Maria, these leaders will go up. But right now, Magellan is just kind of a weak one where it's not really worth playing. Next, we have Zeph. He's a trash tier leader. Let's be honest, guys. Like, this leader goes ahead and gets rid of free Don when attacking to go ahead and KO a free cost or less character. Yes, in hindsight, that is a very good ability, but overall, it just doesn't do a lot and has never really been able to take off. People have tried to make it good, people have tried to make it work, but the fact that it has to attack to use that ability and also get rid of free Don, it's just very unfortunate and has never really been able to take off, and it just doesn't do enough. Being able to utilize loads of different cards and also not being able to gain that resource back, such as like what Red Purple Law can do, where it also has the aggression with the ramp potential. So yeah, so this is a pretty decent leader overall, but it's just not great. I'd put it at the top of the trash tier. Probably goes into a D tier of its own category, but trash is where it is for now. Black Smoker. Black Smoker I think is an easy one. This one can go into the B tier above Ivankov. This leader is very, very strong still, being that it's getting all of this new black support, being that it's just a very good leader overall, and seeing as we've got all of the Black Navy cards still, like none of them were hit, like Ice Age and Kobe's, and like all of these really good cards outside of like Great Eruption that basically say you can still decrease and remove characters. Smoker is still a very, very decent leader that still has potential, being able to go ahead and boost its power while also decreasing a character's cost if it goes to 0, of course, and then just being able to drop down like a Brook or something to remove said character. Like, it's a very, very decent leader and definitely still has potential going forward, so I think he's a decent B tier for me. Next we have Yellow Big Mom. Now I think Yellow Big Mom's a very easy one to put because of she is yellow, she's able to manipulate life, she's got very decent abilities, so I think it's a very easy one to place in the B tier section. Like, honestly, she has access to the 10-drop Mom, she has access to 10-drop Ace that comes in OP07, she has access into Okikunojo to manipulate life, to go ahead and put that Okikunojo in your life so you can get the free play. Like, this leader is just very, very good overall when you really think about it with the life manipulation and everything that she can do. Like, she has a lot of potential going forward, and honestly, Yellow only gets better as time goes on, so I think she deserves to be in the B tier because she's still definitely a decent leader with what she can do. Next we have Red Ace. Red Ace is another easy one. Like, lots of removal, lots of the ability to play events, but let's be honest, he's just not a great leader. He's worse than the White Beard himself. He doesn't have a great power margin. And yes, his gimmick where he can go ahead and counter with events is very nice, but that's all he can do, which doesn't really give him a lot more above that. So he is the C tier leader in my opinion, probably upper C tier as I do believe, but he's still a very, very decent leader. Next we have Captain Kuro. Another trash tier, honestly. Like, this is just a worse Captain Kid. He doesn't do a lot. He doesn't have any favorability. Like, you have to rest 2 characters to use his ability. Like, it really is just unfortunate that this leader does do what it does. Because, let's be honest, you don't want to pay free Don, rest 2 of your characters just to get him back up when you can play Captain Kid, which only rests free Don and trashes a card in your hand. Like, it doesn't take away any of your swings. It doesn't do anything. Kuro is just a worse Captain Kid, so he goes in the trash tier. Next we have Yellow Green Arlong. Arlong is, I think, an upper C tier as well. Like, Arlong is just one of those leaders that does have a lot of potential going forward, where yes, he can go ahead and get more characters that he can utilize as the game goes on, because the more trigger characters that he can play is always going to be good for him, right? But the main problem with him and why he is going to be in C tier is that you have to play those characters from the hand, meaning that you're losing resources in your hand, you're depleting your hand size to go ahead and play these characters, and you're not really going to get anything out of that hand size decrease majority of the time. So it's just better to play something like Doflamingo, for instance, which would do the job even better. So yes, he's a pretty decent leader, but he is an upper C tier in my personal opinion. Next we have Blue Nami. Blue Nami, let's be honest guys, like, this leader is only getting better as time goes on. she is A tier. Like, this leader is still very, very strong. Being able to just go ahead and deck yourself out is getting even easier as time goes on with this leader. Now being able to utilize more of the impel down cards to go ahead and use it, being able to potentially use stuff like Inazuma to draw more cards as well. I don't think people do that, but it's definitely an option that people could potentially do, which I think is very, very interesting. And also just the fact that you can deck yourself out so easily with this deck now, with all of the new cards that we've gotten, such as White Snake in OP06, that it just makes the deck even better, even stronger, and I do believe it does deserve an A tier spot. Next, we have Iceberg, Purple Iceberg. Now, this one, I actually do agree with it being in a C tier position. Now, I see this deck played, I see people who die by this deck, and I've played against it, I've seen what it can do. I don't think it's a trash deck. It did get stuff in EVO1, with the ability to go ahead and recycle stuff from the trash now being very, very strong, and also being able to play 6k characters from your hand every single turn to get that aggression in. This leader does have some capabilities to be very, very decent, that I do believe it is a decent C tier position where it can still be played, where it can be useful, and with the additional recyclability and with the ability to ramp and with everything else it does have, I would justifiably put it in a C tier position. So C tier for Iceberg. Next we have the Black Rob Lucci. Black Rob Lucci, I'm going to be honest, he is basically the same level as Smoker, and that is because, probably above Smoker to be honest, and that is because he does have everything that Black Navy has, but better now because it's got all the removal, it's got all the new CP support, and also it can double attack if it does KO something. So if you go ahead and KO something with something like Kaku, you can go ahead and restand it by trashing 2 cards in your hand, and then you can also go ahead and use stuff like the 4-cost Rob Lucci to go ahead and return 3 cards from your trash, and then also go ahead and remove stuff to also then again restand Rob Lucci. Obviously you're not doing it twice per turn, but the fact that there's a load of removal in the deck, the ability to attack twice is always going to be decent, and having Rob Lucci with his new support, definitely interesting, and with the stage already being able to decrease characters by 2 cost, it makes it even easier to remove a lot of the stuff in the opponent's deck. So yes, very, very strong leader, B tier in my personal opinion, so we're going to put it there. Next we have the Black Yellow Big Mom. She's a C tier leader, honestly, with the Yellow Big Mom being so much better than this leader, just because obviously it can gain life every single turn. It isn't as good as the B tier version of the pure Yellow Big Mom, just because you have to trash cards in your hand to gain the life, you go ahead and swing every turn, like, you can only do it while you're on 1 life. Like, there are downsides to this leader that do put it in a very bad position, so I do believe it is a C tier leader, definitely an upper C tier leader, because always gaining life and having access to all the very good yellow cards such as Ace, Big Mom, is always going to be a bit good point for this leader, but it's not a great one nonetheless. Now, next we have Yellow Katakuri. Now, Yellow Katakuri, in my personal opinion, is one that, yes, is technically has been one of the best leaders of the game since its release, but as time has gone on, decks have gotten faster, decks have gotten more aggressive, there's been better yellow leaders that have come out, have really taken this leader down a notch. So, in my personal opinion, for Yellow Katakuri, I think he's become a B tier leader. He has finally dropped from that A tier slot, being a leader that was very strong, very powerful, manipulating life was always very strong, and looking at what your opponent could potentially get was very, very strong as well. But at this point in the game, where the game's getting aggressive, where a lot of these leaders that you see up here are very aggressive, like you've got Red Green Law, you've got Zoro, you've got Whitebeard, you've got Dofi, these leaders that will be aggressive against you, they'll get lots of advantage against you, and hell, even Nami that enjoys the long game. These leaders will 90% of the time take out Katakuri, and it won't be pretty. So, in my personal opinion, yes, he's still a very, very strong leader, definitely the top of B tier, but he has gone down a notch into the B tier section in my personal opinion. Next we have Yellow Yamato, upper C tier, like, has access to Ace, has access to all these really nice yellow cards, but still not an amazing leader. Yes, you can be a potential 6k leader, which is very decent when you really think about it, but overall, not great right now, not amazing. just something that does deserve to be in the C tier at the current moment, in my personal opinion. Next, we have Black Luffy. Black Luffy is obviously the structure deck leader Luffy, not to be mistaken with the other structure deck Luffy that'll be coming out soon. This one is the one that goes ahead and equips a arrested Don to it if a character is KO'd. Now, this one is obviously an interesting one. It did have a lot of play when it was originally released, being able to go ahead against the Whitebeard decks, gain more Don, gain advantage, be aggressive. But right now, this deck is seeing no play, has no power, and it's not really doing anything in my personal opinion. So I'm going to put it at the same level as Yamato, being a C tier leader, not really able to do much, definitely doesn't deserve to be higher than this right now in my personal opinion. Next we have Red Blue Vivi. Another trash tier leader, sadly. Like, she is just very, very disappointing when you really think about it. She can't attack. Yes, she gives rush to characters, and yes, she draws cards, but the fact that it's going to cost you 2 Don, it's going to be basically very slow until that point, and the fact that you do lose out on the leader swing every single turn does really take away from her, and I just don't think this leader has the ability to go higher than the C tier section, so she is a trash tier leader, sadly. Next we have the Green Purple Dofi. Now, Green Purple Dofi is actually a very interesting leader going into this format, because this is one of the few leaders that can utilize a card called Birdcage, which will absolutely annihilate the red-purple law matchup. So would Film Dofi be very viable in this format? Honestly, I don't think it would be super amazing, but I do think he's probably a high B tier status, just because having the ability to play Birdcage to go ahead and prevent your opponent's characters from restanding, and then when you hit 10 Don, essentially wipe their entire board, it's a very, very good strategy and has seen play quite a bit from what I can tell on the Sims, that this leader is definitely one that going forward could be potentially one of the best leaders for the B tier position. It's definitely a very good rogue choice, definitely something that you could potentially play going forward, and still you've got new cards such as the Slow Beam Sword to go ahead and gain 2k counter and also rest an opponent's character. So there are new cards in OP07 to go ahead and increase this deck's power as well. So you guys might want to try this for yourself, but I definitely think he goes into a B tier status, being a very decent leader to potentially play. Next we have Isho. Isho is also a C tier leader, sadly. I think he's still probably higher than these two, being a very decent removal leader, but the fact that he's got the green-black matchup, and there's just better leaders like Perona, and his leader ability doesn't really do a lot, I just think he's a C tier leader overall. Not really any reason to discuss that any further. Next we have Blue-Black Rebecca. Blue-Black Rebecca is another interesting leader because of technically she is the best color combination in the game, which is blue and black, and also has an ability that allows you to search cards very easily, which is very, very strong, right? But Rebecca, in a nutshell, I'm not too sure how strong she actually is going forward. Personally, I think she's decent. I think she has the capabilities all the Sakazuki players are going to be missing. Being able to search cards from the top of your deck, being able to keep hand advantage, being able to utilize Gecko Moria, Rebecca, and all of these cards to go ahead and keep getting into nice situations. Like, I think she's going to be pretty decent, and also having access to the blue removal on top of that, being able to utilize Houndblaze and the sword if you really wanted to play that kind of build. I think she's going to be decent. Do I think she's as good as Sakazuki though? Nowhere near. Not being able to attack is a big detriment, but I do believe this leader is probably going to be somewhere in the B tier position, being something that's still going to be decent. They're going to be able to double attack with that Monkey D. Luffy for basically huge numbers if they're playing the King Kong gun. So I think she's a decent leader going into the B tier spot. And next we have the Blue-Yellow Queen. Now, Blue-Yellow Queen has also gotten more support during this set with the 10-drop Ace, and he's always a leader that is kind of scary when you think about it. This leader says if you have 4 cards between your hand and your life, or less than 4 cards between your hand and your life, you can go ahead and gain 1 life when it attacks if you control a 8 cost or higher character. So he's a very, very decent leader. Do I think he's going to be amazing going forward? No, not really. I don't think he's going to be absolutely insane, but I think he's still going to be something that you do need to look out for. So in my opinion, I'll probably still put him in the B tier position, below Rebecca, because obviously this can go ahead and remove it, and then also probably below these, because these could definitely deal with it if they really wanted to. but this is a leader that you do have to kind of watch out for and be a bit wary of, if you get what I mean. Next we have Red Purple Kid. Red Purple Kid is also another interesting leader. Like, he's always one of those leaders that, yes, can have that aggressive side, yes, can do some decent things, but do I think he's insane? No, not really. Like, he does have the downside of needing to go to free life to gain that 1k power back if it's your turn, to be able to swing without having to attach a Don or remove a Don, which is a bit annoying. But is he really worth the effort? Is he a really decent leader? Personally, I think he's actually still playable. I don't think he's very high up on this list. He's probably, I would put him probably around the here range of like Luffy and then below Ace and stuff, because yes, he does have potential, and yes, he is playable in his own right for when you do go ahead and go for an aggressive build with him, when you go ahead and play like the 5-drop kids to go ahead and get the Don back. Like, he can go ahead and get the ramp, he can go ahead and utilize a lot of the cards like Bon Clay and all of these, which is very, very decent. But his downsides outweigh his benefits, so I'm gonna have to put him in the C tier here, because yes, I do like him, but he's not amazing and not above C tier in my personal opinion. Right, next we have Red Purple Luffy. Red Purple Luffy is a very interesting position because he's another 6k leader and definitely does have some potential when you really think about it, being a leader that can go ahead and gain additional turns with the 10-drop Luffy, being able to play aggressive cards such as Killer and Kid, being able to ramp very easy with like Bon Clays and all of these other cards. Like, this leader is very decent and definitely has potential when you really, really think about it, because he's just a very aggressive leader that's a big leader and can also do a lot of things similar to Whitebeard. Is he on the same level as Whitebeard? No, this leader is nowhere near the same level because it doesn't gain as many draws per turn as the leader ability of Whitebeard enables, and it doesn't have the same cards that it can kind of play when it goes with it. Yes, it still has Rad Beam, but it doesn't have everything that Whitebeard realistically has when you really think about it, because of it doesn't gain all of those additional resources. But nonetheless, this leader is still pretty decent and is definitely something that you do have to kind of worry about if you are playing something like Red Purple Kid, because if you can't get over that life because you keep getting rid of your Dom, it's going to be a bit of a tough time. So personally, I think he goes somewhere in B tier. I would probably put him above Queen and Rebecca, just because these two decks aren't as good as him, in my personal opinion. So I'd personally put him in probably the upper B tier position. Currently the top 3 spots, but he may change depending on how it goes. Okay, next we have Red Purple Law. Now, I don't think we need to discuss Red Purple Law too much. We already know that he's the best leader in the game in OP08 and is currently one of the 3 best leaders in the game right now. And we're going to instantly just put him in S tier. He has the ability to go ahead and play characters for free, but also being removal. Like, removal and aggression is very, very strong, and with the ability to re-ramp all of the Don that he does get rid of, being free Don removal, and also decrease power, this deck is just absolutely insane, having great cards such as Killer and Kid, the new Sanji, being able to use like Kid blocker as well to go ahead and regain Don. Like, this deck is absolutely insane. It can even use cards like Bon Clay to get active Don back, which is just really, really strong. So he's an S tier leader, he's one of the 3, and he's definitely very, very strong. Next we have Purple Yellow Croc. Now, Purple Yellow Croc is actually an interesting leader in my personal opinion. He's a leader that you wouldn't expect to be good, but when you really think about it, he is pretty good. Like, he actually has a lot of synergy with all the Baroque Spurs cards, with all of the yellow support that comes out, having now access to the ace that all the other yellow decks have access to. This deck is actually very, very decent and can abuse cards like O Come My Way and Okiku to gain life whenever you want, or make your opponent swing into other characters that you wouldn't want to swing into. This leader is actually very, very interesting and very, very decent. So in my opinion, we're going to go ahead and slap him in the B tier position, below Rebecca, but still in B tier. He's still very decent, definitely has some potential, definitely has the idea behind it that can be very, very strong. And I think just O Come My Way and Ukiku Nojo is just a very, very strong combo that it deserves to be known, and people need to be somewhat wary of it, because it can just take games with the amount of life this deck can actually gain with Ace, Yamato, Crocodile himself. There's just a lot of things that this leader can do. Next we have the Promo Blue Luffy. Let's be honest, C tier leader, low C tier at that, probably here. Like, he's not a terrible leader because he can go ahead and draw you cards, which is nice, but overall, he's not a great leader of much. He goes ahead and gives you the draw. He can go ahead and use all the blue cards, such as Ivankov, such as Crocodile, such as himself. Like, it's okay, but it's not amazing, it's not great, and he's just not really seen a lot of play overall, so he's bottom of C tier in my opinion, because he can do stuff potentially with his draw power, but it's not great outside of that. Next we have Zoro and Sanji. This is another like bottom of C tier. Like I think it has potential. Like this one actually has potential because it can go ahead and restand characters, which I think is very nice, but no one's been able to find a build that works. No one's been able to break it. No one's been able to utilize it well enough where it does deserve to be where it is. That I do believe it is probably a C tier leader here, like lower C tier, above the Luffy, but still C tier, in my opinion. Right, next we have Black Red Subbo. Black Red Subbo is actually another C tier leader. He's better than Garp just because of his leader ability does synergize with blockers very well, or characters like Rush Zoro, because if they would be KO'd, you do protect them, which is very, very nice. I'd put him in an upper C tier position just because being able to protect your stuff is actually very, very decent. Next we have Bello Betty. Bello Betty is actually a pretty good leader as well. I would probably put her above Rebecca just because, like, Bello Betty is basically this. You high roll or you low roll. And if you high roll, you're going to win. If you low roll, you're not going to win. She's the red-purple law before red-purple law. Like, having access to all the good yellow cards, having access to all the revolutionary triggers, having access to the ability to boost all of your characters, or all of your trigger characters or revolutionary army characters by 3k by simply discarding a revolutionary army character or card is very, very nice. And honestly, I think as this leader goes on, it will get more support, it will get better power, and she's still pretty decent as of now, so I'd say she's a B tier leader as well. Next we have Corazon. Even though he can use Birdcage like his brother, he's not great. He's probably below Subbo in my personal opinion. Best buddy battle leader, I think, because if you go ahead and use him in buddy battle, he can do a lot. Because if they swing, you block with him, they can't kill you because if you have no life, your opponent still has life. It's very interesting, but outside of buddy battle, I don't think Rosinante is actually that good. Next we have Blue Black Sakazuki. He's banned, so he goes in the trash tier. No need to discuss that. Purple Luffy. Purple Luffy is actually a leader that is actually getting somewhat better now that we no longer have to deal with Blue Black Sakazuki. So it's actually interesting to think where this leader does go. Personally, I think it's an upper B tier position as well, just because he's still a very aggressive leader, he's a very fast leader, but he's not better than the leaders on our list currently, so I think he's a B tier leader. Like, he does use cards like Paulie to go ahead and get the removal, also being able to ramp with stuff like Onami, Bon Clay Nami, and can go ahead and remove cards in hand very easily with like the 4-cost law, but other decks on here can do that as well, and he's just a very, very decent leader, I think, right now, and can definitely have more power as time goes on. But right now, B tier, I think he's like the upper B tier, probably second to Katakuri. Next, we have Enel, Yellow Enel, the other S tier leader. This deck is a cockroach deck. If you play it, you are a cockroach. I am sorry. Like, honestly, Enel is just one of those leaders that do exist and you will have to deal with, but it's fine because if he does lose to a lot of aggressive decks, he loses to the red-purple law strategy. So if you're playing red-purple law, you will be able to smack this leader very, very easily. But he's still very strong, being able to abuse Yamato, being able to abuse the new ace for the rush. He's like, it's just a very good leader, and he just survives a lot of the time for no apparent reason. Next, we have Green Uta. Green Film Uta is actually a very, very strong deck, being one of the decks that did get support in EBO1 with the new Sanji and the new Bluno blocker. This card gets way better, this deck gets way better as time goes on as well, and the more green film cards the deck gets, it just makes it even stronger. And my personal opinion, she is above these three in the A tier position because she just gets a ton of cards out of nowhere. She's able to utilize all of the film cards on top of that, being able to play multiple characters, and also abuses the 8-cost kid, preventing you from hitting her very, very easily. She's just a very decent leader, very cool leader to play as well. And it's definitely one that will have very big hands. So if you got those blue puddings in your deck, very good for you. But if you don't, you're going to be dealing with this very hard, right? Next we have Red Purple Uta. Just trash like her dad, honestly. Like, how you're telling me this deck is just so bad? You have to go ahead and trash a card to utilize her ability. She decreases, she ramps, but the point is you're losing your cards in hand, so you're not going to be able to utilize anything else. Like, Honestly, she's just not good. She's not great. People have tried to build her, and I've seen them fail every single time. She's just a very disappointing leader. Next, we have Hody Jones. Hody Jones is just sadly another trash tier leader. Yes, he does have some plays, but he has the problem that I think every leader that can't attack has, but he gets around it with the ability to attack. Essentially, what he does is he can go ahead and rest himself and rest an opponent's character at 3 cost or less, or a Don, and say you can't take, well, you don't take life from abilities, which technically pretty cool ability. It would be better though if it didn't have to rest itself, because, well, I'm resting myself, losing a potential attack, and if I do utilize the abilities in my deck outside of his ability without using it, then I'm going to be taking life. Like, this is the whole deck premise is that you're going to be taking life, or you have to lose your attack to go ahead and stop that. And I think that's just very underwhelming, very disappointing. So I think he's a trash tier leader. I just don't think he's good. It's very hard to make this deck good, in my opinion. And if you can, great, but personally I think he is a trash tier leader. Okay, so next we have Green Black Perona. Green Black Perona is actually a very interesting one, basically being Sakazuki to an extent, but with a higher hit rate to kill. Because essentially what you do with Perona is you play stuff like Ryuma, and you play stuff like X-Drake to KO rested full cost, and because of Perona's ability to rest stuff, she's actually a pretty decent leader, with also having the additional ability to decrease cost as well. Now, where do I personally think she does deserve to be on this tier list? I would say B tier as well. Below Red Purple Luffy, but definitely somewhere in this area here, because she's still a very, very decent leader. Having the ability to rest stuff is always going to be good, especially against Red Purple lore, where they're going to go ahead and play their characters, you're going to go ahead and rest them, then you're going to go ahead and drop your Ryuma, and then you're going to go ahead and kill them for free. Like, it's going to be a good resource management game for you, and against this deck, it's very, very strong. Now, against obviously the Enel deck and the other best deck of the format, this might not be as good, but definitely going into a Red Purple lore matchup, this deck can definitely hurt them very, very hard, and it does also prevent them from playing their Rise Maxes and also their Gordons for free, which is pretty decent as well. So I think she's a very, very cool leader. Next we have Yamato, Green Yellow Yamato. Very, very decent leader in my personal opinion. Still one of the better ones. Definitely in the top 3. Like, having double attack on a leader is absolutely busted, and she can just go ahead and take wins out of nowhere. So I think she is still a B tier leader and does deserve the position up here. Next we have Reiju. Reiju. Now, Reiju is actually a very, very cool leader in my opinion. You Negadon, you draw a card. Power Rangers is also very, very interesting. Being able to play the Ichiji, Niji, and all of that for free with the smaller versions of them, and also the Reiju to get more draws. It's very, very nice. Problem with this deck, though, has a very, very hard matchup against Red Purple lore. Now, it has been trying new techs with like the Porch from the Foxy archetype to go ahead and search the top 5 and then play a full cost or lower character, essentially keeping you in that range, same as the Red Purple lore player, to be able to utilize your Power Rangers abilities. But I'm not too sure this is going to be enough to make this deck really, really strong going into that kind of game. So I'm kind of thinking, where does it really deserve to be? I'm going to say lower B tier, probably around here. Because even though she is a little disappointing with what she's getting, there are people out there innovating her, there are people trying to make her better, and there is still viability here. And against any other deck on this list, she is still very, very strong. It's just the fact that Red Purple lore and other decks that neg their Dom really do take away from her, which does put her in a very, very tight spot. So I think she's been knocked down to B tier, probably around this. You know what? She doesn't deserve to be that low. I'm gonna say just below Perona. I don't think she's that low, but she's still one of those leaders that does have potential, does have power, but if it goes up against Red Purple lore, it's going to be a very, very hard game. Next we have Gecko Moria. Gecko Moria is a very easy one. He is an A tier leader. He's probably high A tier. Like, he's very, very strong, being a leader that can remove, play from trash, gain resources, remove cards from your hand with stuff like Perona. Like, this leader is just very, very strong, and this deck is very, very strong. So it's an easy A tier for me. Next we have Yellow Red Subo. Yellow-red Sabo. Next we have red-yellow Sabo. Very, very decent leader in my personal opinion. Being a leader that can go ahead and get a lot of aggression out and also be a leader that gains life very, very easily is very, very decent in my personal opinion. He's not an amazing leader by any stretch, but he can go ahead and abuse stuff like the ST13 with the Ace and also the 5-cost Rush Luffy, while using the little kid versions to go ahead and play them out from your life after putting them there to gain additional swings, which is very, very decent. He's not insane though, so I'm going to have to go ahead and put him in a justifiable position of B tier, probably just between Perona and Reiju for now, because he is definitely something decent in my eyes. Next we have the blue-yellow Ace. Right now, trash tier. Deck's just not great, I'm sorry. Like, honestly, there's been no way I can see to make this leader good, and he's just not great. He adds a rule that says all of your face-up life go back to your deck. He doesn't do a lot outside of that. He, yes, can go ahead and put characters into life, which is cool and all, but in my opinion, he's just not good enough, so he's just a trash leader in my mind. I could be wrong, you can move him up on your own list, but for me, trash leader. That's all I have to say. Next, we have the Black-Yellow Luffy, and this is our last S-tier deck. Honestly, Black-Yellow Luffy is a very, very strong deck, guys. Like, come on. This deck is insane, being a 9k leader, having massive aggression, being able to play Sabo after time after time after time, and being unKOable because of that, and also being able to just gain high-costing characters, such as 5-cost Luffy, to prevent Law from putting them to the bottom of the deck. This deck is absolutely insane, very, very strong, and definitely does deserve to be in the S tier. And is also very consistent as well because of the Sabo, because of stuff like Garp, and also the event that the deck plays. And it does play a ton of 2Ks as well that go ahead and help you manipulate your life. Like, this deck is absolutely insane in my personal opinion, and definitely does deserve to be in the S tier slot, because the triangle, in my opinion, is Law and now Black-Yellow Luffy. Black-Yellow Luffy beats Law, Law beats Enel, and Enel beats Black-Yellow Luffy. That is the triangle in my eyes. Next, we have the illustrious Odin. Yes, we know that his green counterpart is trash, but this one is actually pretty decent. He is better than Kinemon here, being a leader that actually does have a lot of potential for the fact that he turns all Land of Wonder cards into 1k counters. He does also have the ability to become a 6k leader on his own, and he also has very, very good support such as the 5-cost Izo, and also being able to utilize the double attack Yamato. It has a lot going for it, in my personal opinion, that does make this leader very, very decent. He's a very aggressive leader, he's a very decent leader, and he's better than Kinemon, in my opinion, so he's definitely in the B tier as well. Next, we have Kyros. Kyros is actually an interesting one. I don't really have a lot of experience with this leader, and I can't really say too much about him, but going on what I do know, he's not an amazing leader. He's basically kind of on the same level as Black Sakazuki, but is actually better just for the fact that, yes, he can go ahead and KO a character by flipping a life, but you don't have to trash anything for that, you don't have to lose anything for that, which does make this leader somewhat decent, but I don't think he's actually amazing, and we're going to have to put him in C tier in my opinion, probably around here. I would put him above Isho because he's definitely got potential, he definitely has the ability to play, and he does have access to all the Dressrosa cards, having good consistency, having a lot of decrease, but a lot of the Dressrosa cards also revolve around you resting your leader, so if you do want to get the swing out of Kyros, it's going to be a bit of a mishap there as well, in my personal opinion. So yes, he's an interesting leader, yes, he's black-yellow, which is not a great color combination, but it can work, but I just don't think he's bigger than C tier because of those reasons. Like, he's an interesting leader, but he's just not got a lot of good synergy with the cards that he has, in my personal opinion. Next, we have Hannibal. Hannibal is actually a pretty decent leader as well. Like, he's a leader that can go ahead and ramp very easily. He's a leader that can go ahead and go into a lot of plays, which is very, very nice. And is a leader that does have access to all the impelled down cards and able to abuse them as well. Because you can go ahead and play Stussy, play a Jailer Beast, and return Stussy to gain a Dom. And he has access to all of the blue cards, such as Gravity Blade, such as, like, 3000 Wells. Like, he has access to all of the good blue cards as well. So it's hard to put him in a place for me. I'd probably say he's on the same level as Gavonkov, probably just below because you don't get that draw factor. Actually, you know what? He's above. He's above. And I'm putting him above for one reason. And that reason is because he does get the ramp. He's good for ramp, and he can go ahead and protect stuff like Mini Chihuahua to go ahead and play it, then return it so it doesn't die, which is actually pretty decent, and it also does get the ramp ability as well, which is very, very nice. So I would say a pretty decent B tier leader if you were to play him. Not anything high tier on the B scale, but definitely something that if you did play it, it would have some potential areas there to be played. Next we have Red Dragon. Red Dragon is an interesting one as well. Like, essentially he's a better Red Luffy because he can go ahead and move Don that's already on characters, which is very different for a leader of his caliber. So I'm gonna have to say he's probably a C tier leader because yes, he's decent, yes, he's interesting, but I can't really judge him higher than C tier because this deck can't abuse all of the other revolutionary cards. All of the revolutionary triggers need a multicolored leader to be able to trigger them and play them, so it does lose out on that. Yes, it has the ability to move the Don, which is kind of nice, but it doesn't really get anything outside of that, which I think is actually kind of unfortunate. I think this leader should have probably been a green-red leader to gain access into that ability as well, to go ahead and utilize the triggers, and also go ahead and give it some green revolutionary support as well, which I think would have been probably pretty decent. But hey, I think he's upper C tier, definitely something that you could mess around with and do some fun things with, but I don't think he's amazing outside of that. So next we have Green Bonnie. Now Green Bonnie, in my personal opinion, is one of the next A tier leaders, and my reasoning behind this is simple. She is a leader that says, if you attack me, I'm going to rest a Don and then rest your leader or a character you control. That is absolutely insane when you really think about it. Having that ability to just say, oh, you swing at me, I'm going to take away a swing on top of that. So it means that I'm wasting less cards to protect myself. It means that I'm wasting less resources. It means that you are losing out on the ability to try and kill me. It's a very, very good leader when you think about it. And when you combine it with the support that she also has in OP07 and also stuff like 10-drop Dofi, she just gets a little more wild, because guess what? If you go ahead and utilize Uraj to restand the Don after playing a 10-drop Dofi, you not only have locked down 3 characters, but if they play more characters, then they're going to go ahead and try to swing. You're going to rest one Don and then rest another character on the board, and if you have more 10-drop Dofis with that situation, it just gets harder and harder. So in my personal opinion, Bonnie, yes, she does kind of lose out to those aggressive leaders if they do put more than 3 bodies on the board, but if it's only 2 bodies at a time, she's going to go ahead and sweep the floor with a lot of leaders, and she's going to lock down the board, and she's going to control the game, and she's going to kill you because she's not used a load of cards in hand. She's also keeping your leader in check or any of your characters in check, and you're just going to be in a very, very tough position. So I think she's an A tier leader and definitely does deserve that spot. Next we have the Blue Boa leader. Okay, so where does Blue Boa deserve to be? This leader is actually pretty interesting, being a leader that says if a character is removed from the board and you have 5 or less cards in hand, you draw 1 card. Pretty decent. Do I think she's amazing overall though? Not particularly. Like, she does have access to all the blue cards, which is very, very nice. She also can go ahead and draw cards, which is very decent. And there's a lot of removals such as Gravity Blade and everything in the game. But I'm not too hyped about her. I'm gonna be honest, I think I'll put it in the same spot as Ivankov, or a B tier for now, because I think she does have some potential and also has the ability to go ahead and gain more advantage by drawing cards, which is obviously good, right? Like, drawing cards is always going to be good, but I don't think right now I can say she's going to be higher than this position, and I'm talking very down about her, so it does sound like I think she should be in C tier, and to an extent I do kind of think that, but if I was to put her in C tier, then it wouldn't make sense, because she's a very decent blue leader with the ability to draw. She's also technically similar to Reiju, but Reiju just has to remove a Don, and getting a draw is always nice, but I think that restriction on her that says that you have to have 5 or less cards in hand is the problem part for me. If she didn't have to have 5 or less cards in hand, I think this leader would be great. I think this leader would be amazing, but I just think because of that, it is a bit of a downside. So yeah, nonetheless, I think she's a B tier leader. She definitely is decent being able to get draws. That's always nice in a leader. Getting advantage is always going to be decent, but I don't think she's one of the most amazing blue leaders out there. So lower B tier is where I'll put her. Okay, so next we have Purple Foxy. Now, Purple Foxy is actually an interesting leader because he can go ahead and prevent characters and opponents' leaders from restanding. Now, there is drawbacks to this, of course. He does have to neg 3 Don and also control 3 Foxy characters, and also can only do it while attacking. But I think this leader is actually pretty decent. Like, having the ability to prevent a leader and a character from restanding is actually really, really cool. The deck has a lot of ramp built into it, with the Foxy character being able to ramp, there being a Shark that can ramp, playing their own Onigashima character version, so it does gain that ability with the leader kind of synergy there. But do I think this leader is absolutely insane? No, not really. I think his leader ability is pretty decent, but it's not amazing. So I'm gonna have to put it, because of the drawbacks, into the C tier, and I'm gonna put him just below Dragon, because just having a leader that can say your opponent's leader can't restand is absolutely insane. And if you can keep doing that over and over and over again every single turn, and if it's against something like the new Rob Lucci, or against Film Uta, or against Dofi, or against Gecko Moria, these leaders that need to attack to gain their abilities, it can have some synergy against them. The problem is it does suffer if you do get those creatures low, if you do get those characters removed, or you don't have enough characters on board, and if the characters that you have on board outside of those three aren't good enough and you have to remove those instead, it is a bit unfortunate. But I do think this leader does have some potential. It's definitely okay to play. C tier at best in my opinion though, probably can go into trash tier as well because of the restrictions, but just personal opinion, I think he does actually have some playability, putting him into the C tier slot. Next we have Rob Lucci, the new Rob Lucci, and in my opinion, this one is an A tier leader. This one is a very, very strong leader, and I'm going to put him right here just below Film Uta, because this leader in OP08 is one of the two best leaders in the game, being one of the few decks that can go ahead toe to toe with Red Purple Law, but also just being a very good leader right now because it's got the Sakazuki ability to decrease a cost, and also has the ability to put cards in your trash to go ahead and fuel stuff like your 4-cost Riblucci, your Kaku, like all of these good removal cards, which I think gives great synergy to the deck, and also having access to stuff like the CP stage, which says you can rest it to decrease a character by 2 cost. Like, this deck has a lot of things going for it, and I definitely do think it's going to be a very, very decent leader going forward. So I think he goes in the A tier position very, very easily. And then last but not least, we've got the genius himself, Dr. Vegapunk. Now, Vegapunk is actually a pretty cool leader, being a leader that says you can go ahead and play or place Egghead characters into your field or into your life is pretty cool, right? But he does have a lot of downsides. He can't attack, he's got 2 life, and guys, I don't think it's very hard to say where to place him because of this fact. He goes into C tier. Like, I think he's actually a pretty decent leader, so I'm going to put him above Foxy because the deck synergy is very nice. The whole deck is triggers. The deck has all the Straw Hat cards. It has the ability to play characters for free, remove characters from the board, rest characters. Like, it's a very interesting leader, but personally, Dr. Vegapunk, I don't think you're that great, and you're a C tier leader at best. So guys, that is the tier list, the OP07 tier list. After all of the discussion, talking to you, my reasoning, I hope you did enjoy that, guys, because honestly, making this tier list has actually been pretty fun, thinking about where leaders do deserve to be, talking about them, giving you my reasoning, and also just kind of enjoying the process of showing you guys of what I think the upcoming format's going to look like and where basic power levels for each leader is going to be. Because honestly, with all of these leaders in the game, there's tons of different variety of what you guys could play, what you guys could try, and I'd love to hear what leaders you guys are going to try and play, and even where do you think leaders on this list do deserve to be? Do you think some of these leaders are worse than they actually are? Do you think some of these leaders should be moved up, moved down? I want to hear all of your thoughts and opinions, what leaders you're going to play, where they should be on the list. Am I wrong in some areas? Am I right in some areas? I'd love to hear all of that in the comment section below, guys, because honestly, this has taken me the better part of over an hour to make, and it really is enjoyable just to make these kind of videos for you guys, and I'd love to hear all of your thoughts about them in the comment section below. So yeah, guys, that's all I have to say. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more One Piece content, and I'll see you guys in OP07. Later all.